Hello and welcome to the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Keerthana,
I'm Rohan.
and this week we're talking about Kiran Rao's Laapata Ladies.
Yes, so basically what this movie is about is the misadventures of two young brides who get lost in the same train. From mistaken identities to laugh out loud escapades, the ensuing chaos guarantees laughter galore and heartwarming moments. It's kind of more of a marketing pitch than a
Story
log
pitch,
line.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But I will say that it's pretty accurate.
I ended up seeing this movie a little bit late. I never got a chance to watch it in theaters. I was traveling at the time. And, I had heard a decent amount of hype, mostly from you. And I think I watched it and I was surprised at the simplicity of it. I think it was very good. But I was a little surprised at the simplicity of it. And overall, I think it's actually kind of a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few kind of glaring issues that I feel like it has, but we'll get into that later. Overall, really, really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret. I love this movie and I've been telling everyone who will listen to me to watch it. I first heard about it when it premiered at TIFF last year. And then after that, it was like several painful months of waiting until it finally released here. And then even when it did release here, it was like I didn't find it in any theaters close to us. So I had to travel for like an hour and a half to go watch the movie, and I thought it was completely worth it. Yeah, I mean, I was blown away by it. It's such a beautiful story that deserves to be told. Let's just dive right into the story. Like you said, it's very simple. Two sets of married couples take the same train home, and essentially...
Was there two or was there more? I feel like there was way more.
Right, but our main characters.
Yeah.
So basically it's like two sets of married couples. They travel on a train together.
Yep.
And at night, one of the brides gets switched with the other.
Yeah.
And she goes with one of the grooms to his house while the other one is stuck with the other groom still in the train. And the story basically follows these two brides. These are the two Laapata ladies, the lost women, who should basically find their way back. Like, that's the promise of the premise, basically.
Yep. Although, and we're going to go into basically full spoilers like we always do. Although you find out that the first one to get switched, it wasn't so much that she got switched, but rather she was trying to escape her husband, so she saw an opportunity and took it.
And then, of course, the second bride was the very innocent pool in the movie. Wants to find her husband at any cost.
Yep.
What did you think of the story?
I think for the most part it works very, very well. I think Jaya's story, she's the one who intentionally goes with Deepak when she sees that opportunity. I think her story is near pitch perfect. I have some small issues with the two cops,
right,
that exist within her story, but I feel like that was so minor. But her story itself, I think it's pitch perfect. Really, one thing that stood out to me is the monologue that she does, because I have noticed a lot of times in these big monologues, and I noticed this more in Hindi movies than I do like other international movies, is where oftentimes these monologues act like, oh, hey, if you didn't understand what the theme of this movie is, here's what it is. And they're really just speaking to their audience, and they are talking exclusively about the theme and not about the character. In this movie, they're able to hit both, because her character journey is tied exactly to the theme. So she is talking about herself in a character sense, but the audience is still able to absorb the theme that's happening. So I actually really, really like Jaya's storyline.
I would say it's the Barbie monologue, but a little more elevated.
Yeah.
At least that's how it felt for me. Of course, I'm biased, but that doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I think if I had to choose, and Barbie monologue is great. If I had to choose between both of those, between the Barbie one and this one, I preferred this one. I was thinking Jaya was a better in character than
Margot Robbie.
no, not Margot. Margot's on. She's not the
Oh
one who
no,
does the
America
monologue.
Ferrera. Yeah, that's right.
Whatever her
Yeah,
name
yeah,
is,
yeah.
Gloria, I think.
Oh, I don't know. It's yeah. No, I see what you mean. She was a very well written character. I thought most of the characters were, except I would say the antagonist, which is, well, I guess the main antagonist in the most traditional sense of the word is Jaya's original husband.
Yeah.
He's meant to be an angry, abusive person.
Yeah,
And
I think it was Pradeep, but it's kind of hard because IMDb doesn't have the images of most of these actors. So
yeah, do better. I mean, no, but I think with him it was slightly unidimensional, but I also think that the rules of this world kind of allowed that to be normal. I will say that the cops seemed a little underwritten because I could never really tell whose side they were on. And I understand that maybe the intent was to create, was to write towards the eventual twist.
Yeah.
But even then, I just think that it wasn't as effective as it could have been. That being said, I still love the movie.
I actually think the cops didn't necessarily know what side they were on, because I think the decision to help Jaya at the end, and this is where my small issue with the Jaya storyline comes in, because I think in that moment where the cop, I can't remember his name, when he does that little switch, I think he had already made that decision a while back. But when I watched the movie, I was like, why did you wait so long? It really just felt like that scene was very contrived for the audience, where they really wanted the plot twist moment where the audience would go, oh my god, he's changing. But it's like, but I think that actually hurts the character stuff because, well, I think it's Pradeep, so I'm just going to keep referring to the evil husband as Pradeep.
The evil husband.
Yes. Yeah. So he comes in and he tries to get Jaya and gives the cop the money, all that, and then the cop doesn't reveal his true intentions until he actually physically grabs Jaya and starts to walk out. But there's no reason for him to have waited that long, because the explanation he gave was, well, you wanted to take her with you, but she doesn't want to go with you, so I can't let her.
But that was the case from the time we entered the scene.
Exactly. Like, she made that clear from the beginning. And then he also waited until after the guy physically punched her in the face and she's bleeding. And even then, he never said, oh, you just punched her. He said, you threatened to punch her. It's like, no, it's not a threat.
We saw it, yeah.
He did it.
It was, I agree. I think violence in movies in general is not awesome, but especially against women is worse. And in a movie like this, I think is even worse. I think this is a good opportunity to talk about what makes a good twist, right? I think when we're writing a story, that at least from what I know, there need to be three elements, so to speak, to make a twist feel strong and heavy. The first is the plot twist that we all know about, where the direction of the story changes. The second is the emotional twist, where our characters' feelings change. The third is the philosophical twist, where the audience until that point in the film has a certain opinion about a character, and after this twist happens, the opinion of the audience changes completely. I think this scene had all of those three going for it, actually, but they just waited a little too long to actually make it happen. So it's almost like it kind of peaked and it started to fall, and only then they gave us the twist, which I thought was not, it made the scene not as effective as it could be.
See, I think the reason why this twist doesn't work for me it's entirely for the audience. It didn't feel like the cop was actually struggling with his own values and, hey, should I do what is kind of easy and take the money, or should I help the girl?
Yeah, because I think arguably in that scene the cop is the protagonist.
Yeah, and I think his mind was already made up, and I think that's why it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a pretty fair observation. I think it was obvious even in his body language and the way he spoke and everything like that. I know you had another big problem with the story.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
All right. So it's it's with Fool. I don't. I think first of all the actress, she was great. She did she did a great job. I've never seen her or anything before this, but like fantastic performance. And I think a lot of her journey works for me. What doesn't work is really two things. Is one, she is a child bride. Now, this is not explicitly stated.
But it's visible. Like anyone who watches it can kind of tell.
She looks like a child. The actress is 16. The guy playing her husband, Deepak, he is 25. And they kind of, that's kind of what it looks like in the movie. But it's never addressed.
Yeah. See, I see the concern, and the thing is, it like looking back, right? I see that they did go through the effort to make it look like he was a loving husband, but I wonder if that was enough. It's I don't think it's very hard to cast an older person or write an older person. The character would have worked.
Yeah, it's there's no reason for her to be
a child bride. Yeah.
Second, I thought that her arc didn't necessarily fully work. I think the movie kind of tells us she arced, but they don't do a good job of showing it. Because they have, when she's going through her journey, she learns all of his lessons, she kind of says things, but then at the end, she runs right back into his arms. There's no conversation, nothing. I think it would have honestly worked better if she was going through this journey, learning to be more independent, and then maybe hesitated to go back to him because being like, hey, do I really want this life? Do I need this life? Probably not. But then maybe, if she decides that and then she still goes back to him, then at least it's like, okay, we see that she is kind of cognizant of this.
Right.
But no, the moment she gets a chance to run back to him, she runs back.
Yeah, and I mean, if we break it down a little bit in like, if we just talk about it in screenplay terms, she has flaws and she learns to overcome them, but the journey kind of doesn't finish.
Yep.
It's like we don't see the new and improved Pool at the end.
Kind of reminds me of Jaime in Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Where it's like, yeah, he goes through this arc, and then at the very end, he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna go back."
Yeah. No, I mean that's actually an incredible analogy. No, you're right. I mean, I kind of really hate that you brought this up because I watched the movie and I was happy to set aside any. I wanted to love this movie, and I did. And I didn't like.
I thought it was great, also.
No, but like I like chose. I guess this is almost like confirmation bias here because I chose to like ignore this very big, like I'm gonna say like red flag in terms of storytelling here, and I was just it's still in the top 3 for my movies this year, but it was like when you told me this, like my heart just like shattered. I was like, screw this guy, never gonna do a podcast with him again. But here we are. No, I mean, you bring up a very valid point. I understand that this film does do a lot more than most others do for feminism and the conversation in general. That being said, if there's an issue, there's an issue. And, I appreciate the effort, though.
Ultimately, though, I did enjoy this movie, and I think I mentioned that it was super simple, which is not necessarily what I expected, but I think the fact that it's super simple and also pretty lighthearted makes this movie accessible to a lot of to general audiences and mass audiences. As much as I love my hard-hitting dramas, they tend to a lot of people may not enjoy that. And I think everything outside the story also works extremely well.
I agree. I do want to address what you just said first. I think that's a really good way of putting it, calling it accessible, because I have noticed that if we look at films as vehicles to take messages across, which is what most of them are, it's like the filmmaker trying to express an opinion on a certain topic. I've noticed that the more aggressive you are, the less likely people are to take it. It's like, I feel like with any aggression, people's defenses go up. And when I say people, I mean like literally anyone. Like it's, for example, if we look at Animal, right? If the director's idea was to tell me the story of the downfall of a man, I feel like if he had done it less aggressively, I might have been open to listening to that story. But just because it was so in your face and it was almost like it was picking a fight, I feel like me and several others, we just shut it off. And I think the fact that this movie is simple and lighthearted allows for people to drop their defenses and actually listen to the conversation it's trying to have. That being said, yes, I also agree. I thought the film was a delight to watch. The music was excellent. I also do want to mention that the wardrobe department did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Very convincing. The sets were also beautiful. And the actors, I don't think I have any complaints at all. Like, I thought all the performances were like spot on.
And I saw something I didn't actually spend the time to Google this, but apparently the kind of the main cop, apparently it was originally supposed to be Ahmed Khan.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Yeah, but I think it almost works a little bit better.
I mean, it does because the guy who did it was fantastic. But dang, now I feel like there was this, like, it's like a carrot being dangled in front of me.
I know, yeah.
No, that's an interesting tidbit. I didn't know about that.
I do wonder if he would have distracted, though, just because he is such a massive star.
You know what I would have done is I wouldn't have mentioned it, like, at all in any interviews. Don't put him on any of the posters. Like, none of it.
Yeah.
And then just, like, let people, do it. I also have, like, I think Amir Khan is one of my favorite, like, creators. So I would maybe be a little biased towards him. Yeah.
He did produce this, though.
Yeah, he did, and he's been very. I've seen that he's popped up a lot during the promotions, and I remember when Kiran was like, "I'm going to use him shamelessly because this is a story that needs to be told," and I agree with her. I mean, if you have the resources, you should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun movie. Definitely worth a watch. Did you find any standout scenes?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but the monologue at the end. Again, just to reiterate, monologue that hits all the themes of the movie while also staying in character. Something that sounds very simple, but doesn't really happen that often.
I think the reason that monologue works is because it's not preachy. And it's the same.
Tomorrowland.
And I think that's the same. It's the same logic as before. I think the moment a film starts to preach, like, I shut off. So and I imagine like most other people do as well. I think for me, I think my favorite was that little scene where Jaya is still in Deepak's house and she's talking to Deepak's mom and grandma, I think.
I believe so.
And they're talking about how they cook for Deepak and his father, and they stopped cooking things that those two don't like. And then when Jaya brings up that why don't you just cook for yourself? This is a dialogue in the film where the mother says, like, what, like, I like something along the lines of like, I can't believe that we're in the days where the woman's choices are being made, or something like that. Something to that effect. My translation is pretty bad, but the idea is that. And then she goes on to say that it's been so long since she cooked something that she liked, or since she lived the way she liked, that she doesn't even remember what her preferences are anymore. That I thought was incredibly hard-hitting, because I have seen like women like that, like in our homes. It was hard-hitting because not only was it relatable, but in that moment you also feel kind of helpless. Because clearly what's happening is not a great situation, but the character who's dealing with it doesn't seem to see the problem with it at all. I thought that was, and especially the tone with which that scene was handled, I thought was like really smart writing.
Yep.
Yeah, great scene.
Side note before we move on. Deepak's dad
Yes,
kind of looks like Taika Waititi.
he does.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
No, and I was definitely, it was very hard for me to take him seriously. um, no, I mean, both of them are good actors.
Yep.
And the day I see Taika Waititi in a Bollywood film will be a good day, I think. Okay, well, I mean, I feel like our general thoughts on this film are pretty clear. So maybe we should just go ahead and rate it.
Yeah. So do you want to go first?
Sure. Just as a reminder, we do this on the screenplay coverage scale, where we either pass on a film if we don't think it's worth anyone's time. We consider it if we think that there is potential and it might work for some people, and we recommend it if we think it's a great film. That being said, I recommend the film. I think it's a very important story to be told. It's accessible, like Rohan said, and it is currently streaming on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it's a great movie, but I'm gonna be honest, I am torn because of what I mentioned, the issues with Fool's storyline, and I think because of what this movie is going for and what it's trying to be, it's a little hard for me to just overlook that.
Right.
So I'm gonna give it a very strong consider, but a consider. I think those two issues were such easy fixes. Also, is why I'm kind of
because it almost feels like it's within reach.
Yep.
No, I see what you mean. I hate that I see what you mean, but you know, sure.
All right. Well, now let's move on to recommendations. Every week we like to try to recommend something similar to the movie that we're covering. You went first with the review, so I'll go first with my recommendation. I'm gonna recommend Katal. It's a movie. I believe it's streaming on Netflix. I'm not sure, but
I think it is.
Yeah, it's kind of takes place in a small town where the jackfruit of a politician is stolen from his garden, and the cops are immediately ordered to drop everything else that they're working on and search for whoever stole this jackfruit. A lot of great satire on the way politics work.
It was a great movie. It was hilarious. I loved it. I think this week I'm going to recommend this movie called Veet Levisation, which is the Tamil version of the Ayushmann Khurrana Badhai Ho. I particularly liked the Tamil version better because it gave all of its female characters a little more agency. While in the Hindi version, the reason the older mother chooses to keep her pregnancy is because she thinks God willed it. In the Tamil version, they make sure to mention that it's her choice to keep the child, which I thought was a small switch, but a very, very effective one. The film is filled with great little treasures like that. It's definitely worth everyone's time. It is currently streaming on Z5 and is very similar to Laapata Ladies. So if you watch Laapata Ladies and you're craving for more of the same genre, I would say one of our recommendations would be a good choice.
All right. Now, in terms in general, what else have you been watching?
Well, this is completely this is not even the first time I'm watching it, but I'm rewatching Bridgerton in anticipation for the new episodes that are dropping, I think, in a couple of days. I couldn't be more excited. Bridgerton is just such a good show. It's beautiful in a lot of ways. Just even visually, it's just, it's a treat. I would highly recommend anyone who is interested to watch it. It's also streaming on Netflix, and the new season comes out this week.
Yeah, I've been recently, or I just finished season 2 of Tokyo Vice. I think it's based off a true story about a reporter in Tokyo who's investigating the Yakuza. It's one of the most interesting things I have seen in TV. So much fun, and really hope it gets to season 3. I think HBO kind of botched the marketing of it because it's a great show, but nobody knows about it.
Speaking of HBO, the new House of the Dragons trailer came out this morning.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Okay, well then we'll hold off on talking about
Yeah.
it. It was interesting.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you have stuff to add, please feel free to drop it in the comments or DM us. Leave a hate comment on YouTube, whatever you want. And we'll see you next week with a brand new episode.
All right, thank you.